Hey guys, it's been a little bit since I last uploaded a video, but going into the new year, I really wanted to try and be a lot more consistent with this channel, just creating art and just filming videos. I even got a planner where I can just write video ideas or create goals, and it's kind of helped me a lot the last couple of days of creating a schedule to work around and actually treating this like my job, or how I imagine it would be like if it was my job. But I have just a paint with me that's going to be playing in the background while I talk about the topic of this video, which has been kind of the main reason that's been holding me back these last couple of months, or even year, I would say, which is the fear of making finished art or like leaving my sketchbook. Because for the last while, I've kind of just lived within my sketchbook and I haven't branched out and really pushed myself to make a full illustration. You know, coming from having an art block or just a period of rest where you just weren't creating art, and then trying to just jump right back into creating like full-fledged illustrations or painting can be really daunting. You know, going from spending basically zero time or even minimal time on creating art to trying to create something that takes multiple hours or even days to complete, it's just really unrealistic for me personally. And you know, there's gonna be people that can just, after a break, jump right back in and create full masterpieces and full illustrations, but that's not me. And you know, I think a lot of people are also like me, where they kind of need to take baby steps before they commit to a full time-consuming piece. And you know, usually what happens for me is that I'll have art block or I'll take a break, and then once I have the motivation again or are inspired to draw, I'll usually spend a couple days drawing in my sketchbook or, you know, painting just small things here and there, and then kind of work myself up to creating these bigger pieces or these pieces that require a lot more time commitment and skill to create, creating a quote-unquote finished piece of artwork. And I'll take a flashback to around this time last year where I finished a Studio Ghibli kind of redraw, and I spent a lot of time on that. I even have a video I uploaded of it, and you know, I was really proud of that, but you know, it took a lot out of me. And so I ended up taking a little bit of a break, not like a huge one, but you know, a couple weeks where I just didn't really create anything big like that. I just sketched in my sketchbook, and then eventually I just stopped drawing just because life got in the way and I just wasn't really feeling motivated then. And then, you know, yeah, that I took a break, but then I came back and I kind of just drew in my sketchbook and just drew in my comfort zone. I didn't really have any big goals or ambitions in mind. And you would think, like I said before, that, you know, after a couple of days of doing that, I would get the motivation, or, you know, I would create something a bit bigger, a bit larger. But that never happened. And then the weeks turned into months, and then eventually a year passed where I felt like even now I haven't created something I could consider a full illustration. I just lived in my sketchbook. And now the thought of, you know, spending the time and the hours planning, prepping, choosing the medium, finding the reference, and just the concept, to be very daunting. You know, it's so simple to just go into your sketchbook and just draw what you always draw and not really have to think too hard and commit so much time and effort. Because what if you do end up committing all this time to creating something and it doesn't meet your standards or expectations? Or what if you feel as though you have less skill than you did a year ago? And that's kind of the struggle that I feel like many artists go through. You know, you've spent all this time just living in your own head and not really pushing your boundaries. But then now, when you finally have the motivation to create something larger, you're met with the dissatisfaction of not having the skill level to back it up. It just means having to come to terms with the reality that sometimes we're not as good as we think we are, and that we have to improve. We have to get better. And that can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes, especially if you felt like you might have been better at what you were doing in the past and then you've regressed in skill level. Because it always feels terrible, you know, when you could do something before but you can't do it now. But, you know, it's so much easier to just, oh, okay, well, if I can't do that anymore, then I'll just go back to just sketching in my sketchbook and just mindlessly staying in my comfort zone because I don't want to face the reality of the situation. And you know what? That's kind of what I have been telling myself the past year, is that, oh, well, I'll think of something really great, but I don't think I have the skill level to do that. So then I won't. And then, I know I can just draw on my sketchbook and I can just spend my time drawing things I know I'm good at, but not actually creating a product or something that I'm really truly proud of. Because all of the stuff that I show to people that I've drawn and painted in the past are stuff that I drew maybe a year or 2 years ago, and stuff that I'm really proud of, but I know I put in the work and the effort to create it. But there's always the insecurity of, I don't think I'll ever be able to create something like that ever again. And that's where, you know, the imposter syndrome comes in, because it's like, how did I make that? How did I have the skill level and the thought process and just the creativity to be able to make this? And then it's just a cycle of self-hatred and pity that you go through. And it's just not healthy. That mind space is just not there to help you improve in any way. You know, it might feel good to draw the same thing over and over again, but that's just because it's comfortable. You know, we as humans are just creatures of habit. We like when things stay the same and we don't like too much change. But nothing will allow yourself to move forward towards your goals and your dreams unless you just are uncomfortable and you take the risks and you take the opportunities that get you out of your comfort zone. You know, I was watching this podcast and one of the things they were talking about was, you know, the fear of creating art, and that the fear of creating something that you're not proud of, or that doesn't meet your expectations. And he said something, and it was along the lines of create to the fullest potential that you have now. You know, the skill and the potential we had in the past is different than what we have now, and it's going to be different than what we have in the future. But we can't live in the past and we can't live in the future. So the only thing we can do is just create with the skill that we have now at this moment. And you know, that might sound like, oh duh, like obviously we only have the skill that we have, but it's true. It's what's preventing us from pushing to the upper limits of our creativity and our skill level other than ourselves. You know, the limits of our skill right now at this moment might not match what we want, but that's the highest we can do. And you know, in the future, it's going to be higher. But we don't live in the future. We can only use what we have now. And by pushing yourself to your limits and your upper potential, you're only going to improve faster. And that ceiling that your skill used to hit is only just going to get higher and higher. Your skill's just going to get better and better. But the only way for that to happen is if you push to the upper limits of the room that you're in right now. Kind of a weird analogy, but you get what I mean. But the first step of any of this is to get out of your sketchbook, is to get out of whatever you're using to stay into your comfort zone, whether it be a sketchbook, whether it just be doodling in a notebook, whether it just be not committing to a full illustration or anything that's going to really push the limits of your skill, and instead taking out that tablet, taking out that painting paper, taking out that easel, that canvas or whatever, and actually creating something that's going to challenge you and that's going to really test your skill level. I'm also not saying like, if you draw portraits or if you draw humans that you should just go and draw only architecture or backgrounds or anatomy or like sci-fi or whatever. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you really just want to explore the depths of whatever you're into. You know, there's one thing about, because my comfort zone, I'd say, is drawing portraits and people. But I can do more with that. I can draw more than just the same angles and then paint the same people. I can diversify what I'm doing while still staying enough in my comfort zone that I know what I'm doing and I feel comfortable, but I'm also pushing the boundaries of what I'm drawing or painting. And I guess my first step into achieving this or adopting this type of mindset is kind of what you're watching right now. You know, I'm kind of spending a lot more time and putting a lot more detail into the painting that I'm doing right now, and even the concept is a little bit different than what I usually do. But the main takeaway is that I'm not stressing it, and it's even still in my sketchbook. You know, I haven't actually left my sketchbook yet, which might be kind of, you know, counterintuitive to everything I've just been saying. But, you know, maybe before I take the big step of committing to like using a bit nicer paper, you know, something a bit more expensive, something a bit more complex in composition and everything, you know, I'm treating this piece that I'm painting in my sketchbook right now as if it is a bit higher tier than just a regular sketchbook sketch. You know, I added the masking paper around it, I'm filming it, I've kind of just given it a bit more of an importance than just your regular everyday painting. And that's just to like ease back into, you know, creating more complex and just stuff that I'm willing to spend a bit more time on. And you know, if anyone, this talk is kind of just more for myself. You know, there wasn't a huge demand for videos like this or anything, but I kind of just needed time to really think about, oh, what was like holding me back and why I really wasn't creating what I wanted to create. If this video is relatable to you at all anyway, like I really also encourage you to kind of take that extra step out of your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be anything crazy big, you know, but kind of just take that leap of faith to really commit to improving. And you know, I also really enjoyed painting this. It was kind of therapeutic in a way, just thinking about this topic and everything while I was painting it. And I think the footage actually came out pretty decently. I accidentally messed up the microphone. I got a new one and I was really excited to use it. And it came with 2 cords, except one of the cords looked cooler than the other one. So that's the one I used. And then I realized after I finished filming everything that it wasn't the right cord. It was a cord for your phone, and that the audio was completely mute the entire time. So that bummed me out a little bit, but that's why I created this voiceover, because I didn't want to just leave the video with background music and everything. But I'll stop rambling now, and hopefully you enjoyed the video or the talk, and if you didn't, you can just mute it and watch the video. I'm kind of proud of the footage I got. But other than that, I'll see you guys soon.